Welcome back to the show, everyone. Dana, I'm just going to ask you to do a bunch of stuff for me that is not your responsibility.
No.
That only, by the way, the only reason why Dana was able to say no that quickly is because we're doing an episode about saying no. But I know Dana. I think
Yeah.
I know Dana. And if I said, Dana, I really need your help to do a bunch of things for me and she'd
Yeah.
say, what do you need?
Yeah.
What is it? Like
Yeah.
what's going on?
First,
Like,
before I say yes to anything, I need to know what it is, which is a good. And I've had a crap ton of therapy. I was not always good at saying no,
I'm still
but
bad
yeah,
at it.
yeah. Oh God. And for me, it's still, if it has to do with work, like I want to be so good at my job
Oh God, I
that it's
know.
so hard to say no.
Oh
And
God, I
then,
know.
how do you say no? And then you realize you're buried under everything before you know it, and you
Yeah.
can't breathe. But there's like I think about the life tasks that Adler talked about. There's like your home life, there's work, there's friendships, that sort of thing. There's uh, your dog, but the dog would be in front. The dog would be in the inner circle. But those sort of three layers of your work, your immediate family, and then like your friendships and your community. And if you think about saying no or overcommitting in any one of those, my experience has been with my clients is that at work, it's the hardest one to say no because they fear they're not going to think I do my job well enough, or I'm
Yeah.
going to get fired, or, and saying no could be asking for more information. I think about clients that I've worked with that say, my boss will talk about something in a meeting, and then I sort of forget exactly what it was. And then now I am afraid to ask. And I say, this is a form of accommodation for you. You need to have it in writing. Oh, that's going to be a burden on my boss. They're not going to want to do that. They're going to slowly push me out. I mean, those fears feel real, right? But it's almost always when you talk about why someone doesn't want to say no, there's some fear of rejection or an attachment injury. So whether it's at work or your home life, saying no to somebody, or friends, the joke in the autism community is, um, ask me to come to your party, and I'll almost always say no, but I want you to keep asking. Don't ever not ask, right? Because the one time you don't ask, then you're going to feel like you weren't included. But saying no is probably one thing that even neurodivergent clients or not that I work on with folks in therapy is saying no and what it sort of looks like.
Yeah.
Blocking someone on social media, unfriending them on social media is a version of saying no, right? Buying time. Actually, you have the bunch of stuff you want me to do. Can you tell me what you need me to do and why? It sort of is buying time, and then you kind of get to cherry pick if you want to do certain things, right? Geez, we're going to be gone over the weekend. Can you just come in the house and check on the cats a couple times? Ooh, I like that. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. No problem at all, right? So you have to get more information, but it is also okay for you to not take someone else's burden on it. Sort of reminds me of that where you end and the other begins.
Yeah.
So there's this sort of merging attachment weird thing that can happen in saying no. And the closer it gets to your more intimate relationships, that's more likely to be the case. But it's even harder to say no around those things, right?
Yeah.
It seems so easy. Just say no. It's not easy.
No, I think there's so many layers too. And I think let's
Mm-hmm.
include, Dana, on top of your immediate family, then your friends and your community. Like if
Yeah,
we kind of look
yeah,
at those circles,
yeah.
you also need to say no to yourself. Like,
Good point.
there's some
Mm-hmm.
things, I mean, I think about that, and whether we want to call that discipline or maturity or whatever
Mm-hmm.
words
Mm-hmm.
that kind of get lumped into this idea.
Yeah,
How to say no to yourself, how to say no to others, and looking at like the reason why you might say yes.
yeah, exactly.
You
Who's it
know,
for?
Yeah, I think I say yes. If I were to think about myself, I say yes a lot to control other people's perception of me. And what
Yeah.
do I mean by that, right? Like I want to be seen as not only a competent psychologist,
Mhm,
but an
mhm, mhm.
excellent one, an
Yeah,
exceptional
right.
one. I want to be
Yep,
seen as
yep,
that, right?
yep.
So I end up saying yes way more. Like this is the first year that I closed my assessment caseload.
Oh, wow, okay.
So usually I have it kind of rolling
Mhm,
and I just like kill myself throughout the summer. And then
mhm.
and my work isn't great. Like it's like not that
Oh,
it's not
yeah,
great. It's just like it drags on and it just really doesn't
yeah,
need to.
yeah.
And so I finally sat down and I took an audit of all the assessments that I have scheduled for this year for the 2025-26 year. And I'm talking
Mhm.
about school years. So,
Oh, okay.
that
Yeah,
ends
yeah.
at the end of June for
Gotcha.
school districts. And I was like, "Oh my god,
Oh
what
my
have I
god.
done?" And so I
Oh,
closed
god.
my caseload and I said,
Meaning you
I'm
kept adding people to your waiting list, is that what you mean?
I
Yeah,
just kept
okay.
adding people, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and even though I'm scheduled 3 months out, I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, if I schedule this one 3 months out, it's May 31st." Like, I like or thir
Oh,
like I won't even be able to do a school observation of this student at that
gotcha.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I needed to sit down, I needed to say, "Wow, this is what can I
Mhm.
reasonably do without killing myself, especially with
Right.
like with Mia graduating and all
Oh,
of this
yeah, because it's a
stuff,
moving
right?"
target, it continues to evolve, right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I finally just said no and I said, I'm now accepting assessments for the 2026-2027 year starting in August. Like I'm not
exactly,
even
yeah,
like
yeah.
we're not even going to consider this. And they're like, "What? It's only, March."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because 'cause I'm human
Right.
and I don't wanna die.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel really pulled and drawn to this. It's kind of also
yeah,
why I might I don't want to I don't there's just so many things that I think about that I have to really question myself. Is this about me or
yeah,
someone else? Like,
yeah.
and I think because of my trauma history, I
Mm,
fawn. Like my thing is to fawn and to control my environment so that things feel
mhm.
safer to me.
Or to be over responsible, like taking on too
Yeah.
many. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah. The
mhm.
other way that I see this is just like being overly principled. And I don't mean to
Yeah.
say that you shouldn't be principled because, I wish
Mhm,
there were more principled people actually in the world. But
mhm, mhm.
um that idea of like it's the right thing to do, but is the right thing to do
Mhm.
always to take what people need?
Yeah, yeah. What's interesting, you talk about I'm thinking about the different versions, something like you're talking about the assessments can take. So yours are contained to a certain academic year. I have a waiting list too, but mine right now I'm booking out into August, but I do these one at a time because my practice is small.
Mhm.
So I'll do, I see a person 3 weeks in a row and there's a process and I do them one at a time. And then no for me is doing more than one at a time
Yes.
because for me it's a little bit overwhelming to do because those are hours outside of our meeting, significant hours outside of you just meeting with that
Oh
person.
my
It's not like
god.
just a session and you're done writing it up, doing all that. And I want to do due diligence to the people that I'm assessing. If I have more than one going at a time, my worry is I'll mix some things up. I'll cross pollinate, without realizing I'm doing it. So I know that that's a limitation for me. And I would rather do it the one at a time. Now, certainly people on my waiting list in August that's not fun for them to have to wait that long. But I also know then when I do assess them, it's going to be my best product, if you will.
Right.
Whereas you're cramming them into a certain like period of time, right?
Yeah.
And we,
Yeah.
we both have that kind of academic calendar thing. Mine aren't assessments, but there are other sorts of things within that time frame that you're going to let somebody down. But the internal one is huge because for a lot of us, getting through the world it has been self-directed because it's how we've kind of survived, right?
Yeah.
And you can't just turn that off all of a sudden. And I was talking with a client yesterday about saying no in some versions, like unfriending an ex on Facebook. And what does that mean? And it's not as simple as saying, well, you should just unfriend that X. I mean, why are you still doing that? And it came down to this sense of this internalized feeling of, is that person going to see me in a certain way? And I said, well, they shouldn't know you've unfriended them. But what if they go to look at my stuff on there and they can't see my profile? Oh, okay. But the fantasy wasn't like, there wasn't an easy no in there. So it was complicated. So we had to kind of unpack it. Like, what is the fear? What's going on there? And if they saw you unfriended them, what was the fear of what was going to happen? Well, they're not going to like me, and they've been able to do that with other people, but with this particular person, they had a fear of being physically safe was a threat. So it's like, oh, okay. So let's unpack the reality of, if that person would see that and get mad and then show up at your house or something. Let's talk about what that would be. But we unpacked all that in the frame of that internal sense of saying no. Unfriending or blocking you on something, even though neither of them is on there very much. The fear was about discovering the no, which in a way was the unfriending, right? So that's that always you can, to me, when I ask people about saying no, they want to say no, but it's always a pretty big fear.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's irrational and sometimes it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people can say no to a partner or something like that. And if they haven't worked on that relationship, that can create friction, you know? So it isn't just all of a sudden you can say no to these things. You have to check in with your environment about whether that's okay. I'm doing this. I'm trying to not take on as much. Does that work? Et cetera, et cetera. If it's with yourself, the first time you say no, it's going to be terrifying, right? You say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
my therapist said I should say no, and I said no. And then
Yeah.
you sit there like, oh my God, the world's going to explode. It feels like that. And I would always get it in the pit of my stomach, like, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. And that, if you've had that as your default setting for years and years and years, it's not going to go away easily. You have to practice the no, and you have to find like the place of safety within yourself, or talking to those other people about the no, right? So at work, I can say to my boss, I know that you're looking for people to take on this project or whatever. I want to say no because I'm feeling like I have enough on my plate, or I'm burned out with that, or whatever it is, right? Rather than just saying, no, I'm not going to do that. So for me, it feels safer, and it's probably a better practice to check it out with the other person. And they say, oh, yeah, okay. It's great if you have a system that says, oh, okay, yeah, you have enough. That's fine. Thank you for letting me know. A lot of people don't get that. They say no, and then the system's like, you said no, you keep saying no. So it can be really scary to say no.
Yeah, and it's like, why is it scary? To your
Right.
point, uncovering why you're scared about it. Is there something
Hmm.
about your system that's truly scary? Like, you're
Hmm.
in a scary situation, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, its own thing. Is it
Hmm.
that you want to control people's perception of you, and you're scared
Hmm.
about the way that's going to go?
Yeah.
Is it you've never done it before? You were not able to speak up with your parents? I mean, like, the
Right.
it's
Yeah. It's
all
a
of
lot
these
to it.
things, but that
Yeah.
when we don't have clear boundaries that we
Hmm.
understand for ourselves, that
Yeah.
is truly where things get awry.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially I think for women, and I don't mean to make this a sexist thing,
It's
but
less normative for a woman to say no. Men say it and
yes.
they're strong and determined. Women say it and they're a biatch. There, you might
Yeah.
have to edit that
Yeah.
one out.
Yeah. I mean, we've got more societal kinds of expectations. This is also
Hmm.
why the expression of autism in women
Hmm.
is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is very much influenced by societal norms and
Hmm.
expectations.
Hmm.
Um and so, how do we find this place of being able to say no, and understand why we do, and
Yeah.
understand, and if you feel like, look, I'm in a situation where I can't say no ever,
Hmm.
that is a
Hmm.
real tricky situation for you. Whether
Exactly.
that's a work situation, maybe you're in a work setting that's not really aligned with your profile. You know what I'm
Exactly. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yep.
How do
Yep.
we look at this? But I do think that The other way I might look at this is, when you start to get upset or bothered by another person or something else, it's like it's usually boundary crossing for you.
Yeah, yeah, there's a merging there that you
You
don't
know?
feel clear about where you end and they begin. Yeah,
Yeah. So is
yeah.
it like, are you resentful and angry all the time because other people
Mhm.
don't tend to see what you need? But then you gotta ask yourself, but did you ever say anything about it?
Right, right, and it seems so counterintuitive, but it happens. I mean, it's human
Mhm.
nature to wanna keep the system happy, but it becomes
Yes.
pathological when you start to really suffer more yourself just
Yes.
because you're trying to do that impression management kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I'll hear students and coworkers say to me all the time, "You're really good at saying no." As in they like admire that I can do that. I'm like, oh, if you had any idea how long I worked on this in therapy. And I still, for a period of time after I say no, I'm like, oh God, is this okay? Is this okay? Right. So there's always that. It just doesn't cripple me anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that, though, in saying yes, when you want to say yes to certain things, it's not a have to. You have agency in saying, yes, I actually want to do this thing.
Yeah.
And then you're in your own wheelhouse sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
It's
I got an email a month or so ago. I asked you if you knew it's an organization in Canada that looks at and does a really good job with autism. I looked up their
yeah.
website.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like Autism Speaks. And they wanted to have people come in that were talking about why it's difficult to assess women. And I was like, oh, bring it. Right.
Yeah.
And so
You're
I looked them up.
perfect
I
for that.
asked you if you'd heard of them. And then the other two speakers, one of them, some pretty well known neuro psychologist woman in the UK. And I'm like, you really want me on that panel? And he's like, no, I found you on Awake. You seem perfect for that. And I was like, okay, I do know about this. But I did a lot of back and forth with him about what's the time commitment? When would I have to have certain things to you by? And I think he's used to this because he's working in an organization that works with autistic people, answered all those questions. And to me, it felt a manageable amount of time. And it felt like important enough of a thing to do to talk about those things, especially now I've got this drama at my school job where students are being supervised by someone. It's a long story, but trying to get that idea more out there about why it's difficult to assess women, especially like we've done episodes on that. But I needed to know the details before I committed to it. I also needed to look at
Mhm.
my calendar to see what else was going on around that time. Like if
Mhm.
they would have said, have it be this week or next week, we're at the end of our quarter. I'm in grading hell right now. I would have said no immediately because it just wouldn't have been a good time, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to ask for those things. And then
Yeah.
if you do say yes, it's okay to break those chunks down. So I've done my initial research and he said, you'll get to each person can only talk for about 15 minutes. He said, which really is like 3 PowerPoint slides. And I was like,
If.
oh, okay, I could teach an entire quarter on this stuff. So 3 PowerPoint.
Oh,
Now it's like, how can I get all this, what I really want to say
it's almost
in those
harder.
3 slides? It's almost harder. Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is cool. I want to do this. So when I first met you, we met through a mutual person and you wanted to
Yes.
interview me. And I sort of went through that same internal thing. And then we met before we had done that one. I'm like, oh, you're awesome. This just feels comfortable. Yes, I'll do it. Right. And that doesn't mean that's always going to happen, that you're going to commit to something or wade into the pond and not turn around. You might wade into the pond and be like, wow, I can't see to the bottom. And I feel all these squishy things by my feet and I'm out. That you could do that too. You could ask about certain things and get information. And they're like, I really don't think this is necessarily for me. In my experience, when I've asked people to do things and they're mindful about it, I appreciate it better than them just saying yes. And I know they maybe shouldn't have, or if they just say no, but they ask more about it. I feel more respected then actually.
Yeah.
It's a good tactic to use.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard. Saying
It's
no
very hard.
is
Yeah.
hard. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, um, and I laugh because you think about as people age, there's this
Hmm.
stereotype that people let go more and more of
Yeah.
what other
They're
people
not
think of
worried about
them.
what
They're
exactly.
not worried about impression management as much.
Yes, as much. Yeah.
And how freeing that is.
Yeah.
And I just think about like, and I've handled this so clumsily in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was a board member on at Mia's elementary middle school,
Oh God.
and
Yeah.
I just felt very ineffective. One,
Mm.
I don't really like that politicky thing, right?
I don't
Where
either. Yeah.
we're in a board meeting and it's like it doesn't matter what your vote is, to be quite honest, because like the
Yeah.
majority goes through anyway. And I just had some
Hmm.
very specific ideas, and that I was a real minority on that board, from a
Gotcha.
socioeconomic standpoint, from a gender standpoint, from an ethnic standpoint,
Yeah.
and I
How you
just felt
think
like,
about things standpoint. Yeah.
yeah, and I felt way more effective on subcommittees because we were
Oh
actually doing
yeah.
things, even though that, I didn't, not, it kind of, nothing kind of came out of that. So as I was really thinking about how I want to spend the waking hours of my life,
Yeah.
I just kind of decided that I was only going to say yes to hell yes stuff.
Oh, nice. I like that rule. Hell
Um,
yes.
and,
Yeah.
right, like hell yes, like yeah,
Mhm.
hell yes, I want to do that,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I made the mistake of, when you're really expected to serve 2 terms, which is
Oh no.
2 3-year consecutive terms, 2 3-year terms, so 6 years.
Oh my
One
God.
one Mia was gonna be leaving.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so she would have been gone during my second term, in the middle of my
Oh
second term,
God.
which isn't
Yeah.
that big of a deal if I had
Yeah.
felt like I was being an effective, my voice was effective
Right. Oh,
in
yeah, yeah.
like influencing this, like the stakeholder, like
It
being a
didn't just feel like
stakeholder.
this icky, smarmy political thing that no one listened to anyway. Why would you want to keep doing that?
No,
Yeah.
I made the mistake of not exiting gracefully.
Oh
I
yeah,
basically
yeah.
said, I did call them, and I did say, the head of school and the board president at that time, and I just said, I've decided not to renew or to serve a second term.
Yeah.
And part of that is because this isn't a hell yes thing for me anymore.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's because I don't
There's a
feel
reason
effective.
it's not a hell yes.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
feel heard, seen.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm impacting anything
Yeah.
here. I'm a psychologist with a specialty. Never has that been tapped into. Like, that's
Mhm,
why you
mhm.
bring on those voices, to bring
Yeah.
on, like, it's like, I get it. You're finance. You are contributing. You are law.
Yes.
You are contributing. Like, but
Right,
like
right.
this kind of idea. And so, but I think if I were to have to do it again, because I
Mhm.
was so eager to
Yeah.
set my boundaries, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I probably would not have said, "This isn't a hell yes for me."
Okay, you've said it in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have
Yeah.
just been like, I've just really been thinking about my commitments and my time, and I'm
Mhm, mhm.
unfortunately unable to
Yeah, or
re-up for a
my
second
life
term.
circumstances have changed. It's
That's right.
it's too much
Done.
right now. Yeah, yeah,
Done.
yeah.
But I was
Oh,
honest.
yeah,
I was very
yeah,
authentic with it. And,
yeah.
and again, impression management,
Right.
right? And I swear to this day, there's still, whenever I see these people, I still swear there's like a little something there. And it just could be me,
Oh,
but I am quite perceptive and intuitive in this way.
yeah.
Complex trauma has a tendency of
Right.
really sharpening that tool. And,
That's right.
I just have to let it go, because it was like at that time I
Right.
needed to say
Yeah.
no. It was more aligned with myself, but
Yes.
it kind
Yeah.
of resulted in this
Yeah.
situation, you know.
You're along those lines. So like that authentic, doing like what would be PC to say or no, to honor what you're talking about. And sort of, it reminded me of way back in therapy, and I still do this when my therapist asked me, like, I said, we were practicing something about work. You're going to say no. And we were doing like role playing. And so I said no. And then, uh, geniusly wise, her playing my boss, I didn't see it coming at all. She says, why? And then I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was gonna. So I start explaining
Oh,
like way too much information, right? And then she's like, okay, hold on for a second. She says, I did that to you on purpose because you don't have to explain. You could just say no, or you could be where you explain just a little, find a a vagary, like my life circumstances have changed and I find I can't commit to this anymore. Something that you've rehearsed, something that you know the words you're going to use, because the more explaining you do, you're giving out rope for them to hang you. And I always remember that. The more I explain, they're getting more to wrap around my neck and pull it, right? So, and I'll do this with my clients too. I'll say, well, why do you want to say no? And they'll go into this, launch this. It's a reason I would do that, because in my mind, if I could rationalize why I said no, I felt safer, right? Okay, there's a reason I'm saying no.
Yeah.
I feel safer. So it made sense to let them know the reason. But really, that doesn't happen when you give a bunch of reasons to someone else who doesn't really care about your inner self. They'll use it as a way to manipulate you back. So the less information you give, the better, right? And that's what that reminded me. You were saying it's not a hell yeah anymore, but it could have been different words, like you said. It's not it's a burden right now. Some things have changed. I'm really sorry, but I can no longer serve.
Yep.
And then just leave it at that. And then they say, well,
Yeah.
why? And you say that, just repeat yourself.
Yeah.
Just repeat what you said. So that's really important to know too, that you may have all these reasons that make you right in your head, and the other person isn't always going to want those or buy them. So you have to be really careful. Don't say a lot. It's okay to say very little.
Yeah. And I think about, as we're talking about this, and I'm reflecting back on my motivations and my intentions for this. I think like maybe one of the reasons why I did over explain is because I felt
like you were doing something wrong, right?
And that there was a position that wasn't being seen in that community.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Like,
so you're torn on that level too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hey, there is a voice here that is not being heard or seen equally.
That's what I'm doing with the students right now who are doing adult autism assessments in our clinic, and the supervisor they have knows kids really well, but is not. It's a train wreck, right?
Yeah.
So right now, part of me is like, I just don't want to get roped into this. But then I had a student come talk to me last week, and I'm like, oh God, it was important enough to me, like you said. The representation of that. I don't want people getting hurt.
Yeah.
So how can I wade in, right, in a way that feels like the commitment is okay for me? And I'm still figuring that out.
And that, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Dana, but like as psychologists, I have to just not be so arrogant sometimes. Like, I'm not the only one that can figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one that can, quote unquote, solve this problem, give this thing. And, there's a balance of like, I want to be effective and I want to be, again, I want to be exceptional in my work. But that doesn't mean that I know it all. And that I'm saying? Like,
and that ended up being true for me. I talked to one of my fellow faculty who has some training in this, and just having a conversation with her and the things she was saying, I was like, oh, she gets it. Yeah. Cool. Great. Because then I already told the students I'd do a mock report so they can see how I write it up. And that seems like an easy commitment on my part. I've already given them my intake questions that I use. In what degree can you participate that feels okay to you? And it doesn't have to be you doing it all. Right.
Yeah. Look at this in degrees. I think that's great. Like, what are the gradients? What are the don't go all or nothing with it.
And it's hard to let go of that control. It's so really hard to let go of that control. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, it's really hard.
And age has brought that wisdom, to your point about the older you get, So I'm like, I can still see some of that in my wife, where I'll just say something in the house that I would never actually probably say to a neighbor's face. But I say, you should just blah, blah, blah. She's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, why? Because then they're going to hate us forever. And I'm like, I really don't care about that. Right. Yeah. So at different levels, but then really I probably wouldn't be able to do that to someone's face. It's just fun to fantasize about it in the house. I would never say that. Kind of like we call the neighborhood kids. We refer to the little kids that run around screaming. We just call them rats. We're not kid people. Would I go out there to my neighbor and say, can you tell your rats to shut up? No, I'd never do that. Right. So there are some things that can stay internal and that feel really good. You get some control, but I
Yeah.
know I can't control that ultimately out there because they're kids and they run around, and I know kids make
Yeah,
noise.
of course.
So I don't have to be. So it's what you do internally versus externally too has some pieces to do with that.
Oh
Yeah.
God, if I let out everything I have internally going on, I'd be either institutionalized or jailed.
I think we should have like an international say everything day, and everybody just gets to say exactly what they want for like 1 hour of the day. We probably would. We'd probably be
Oh
hauled
God.
off, or people would
Oh my
hate us,
God.
or oh God, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I really don't want to sit next to you in the meeting because you stink. You have coffee breath. I can't stand how much you talk. Really, just you would alienate everybody in your. Oh God, it's too funny.
Oh God.
Oh, I
Okay.
love
Well,
that
on that note,
institutionalized footage. Point
it's
being, have the conversation in your head. It's okay to go to those horrible places, and then you can rein it back in. Oh God, that's a
oh,
riot.
it's wild in
Uh,
here. Let me just say, this
yeah.
in here is a lot going on.
Isn't there a movie, Analyze This, where he's a therapist and he starts to talk back to the client? He's like, you have it bad. And I'm watching this, like, oh my God. And then it ends up being he's doing it in his head. He's not actually really doing it. So funny.
Oh my God.
Oh
Well, on
God.
that note, everyone.
That was a good laugh. Needed that.
I would encourage you to put down in the comments what you want to keep in your head, but I don't think that'd be a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. Oh
Yeah, let's
God. Just don't
we'll,
name the person, but things that you think about other
oh
people.
my
Like,
God. Oh
yeah.
my
Do
God.
you, do you call
Anyway,
little
well,
children rats in your head?
on
Oh
that
God, it's too
note,
funny.
by the way, clearly Dana likes dogs more than kids. Like, did you
Yeah, in case you haven't figured that one out, that's pretty much true. Yeah. Oh God,
Okay,
too
everyone.
funny.
Well, be good to you, be good to others, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye.